So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our last talk on project planning. We will be done after today with project planning. So before we start, I just wanted to make one quick comment. I really appreciate all the questions and comments and ideas that are either discussed here or online or emails or you stopping me in the corridor and talking about it and so on. This is
Eine Nachricht, man hört dich nicht.
okay.
Chat. Lost out, ich schon. Okay, also ist gut klar.
Okay, so there is one person that is not.
Dann liegt es aber an dem Client.
Es liegt an ihm. Okay, also ignoriert.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So what I was saying is that all these comments and questions and discussions and so on, they really also help me a lot to grow, and to think. So really, when people ask one question in one talk, I keep thinking about actually the next talk. And if we still have time during this first period before the coffee break, I would like to discuss some of these questions. And if not, then we do it during the discussion part. But please keep it coming. And if you don't want your voice on the video, just let me know and I will cut it after. But make comments or write down on the chat, and someone else who is okay with having the voice on the video will just read the questions and comments. So thank you so much for helping me grow. Good. So last time we did the THOR. The wonderful THOR in Smartsheet. And what did we learn from that? Let's change. So here's the Gantt chart, right? So let's change to the next one. What do we have here? What are those tasks? If you would think about the triangle.
Budget.
Here is the
Timing.
Time is here, yes. What else? Here are the costs. And here is what?
The scope.
Scope. Okay. So as we keep
Helper.
someone whisper to you. Aha.
And I'm buying it.
Good. So in the triangle, we have what else? Time, cost, scope, quality, and my stakeholders. Very good. So repetition. Okay, so last time I had given you a homework for you to describe some typical risks for a general project and think a little bit about this table, which is cause, event, consequence, probability, and impact. The reason for that is that today we will start exactly with these topics. We will start with identify risks, perform risk analysis, and plan risk responses. Maybe I will put it as yeah. And then the other homework was for you to think about how you plan to manage all those knowledge areas. The reason for that is because we will also look today into plan management for all these knowledge areas. And in the end, we will also take a look into, in the very end, we will take a look into project plan sourcing strategy, and integrate and align project plans. Good, so we will jump directly into it right now. Identify risks. And during this talk, you will hear and you will see a lot of ITTOs. So inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. And as I told you before, I will not go into all the points here. It's just so that you have this information on the slides that you'll get. Okay, so identify risks. Let's take a look more closely into the tools and techniques to identify risks. And if you would look into this list here, and absolutely nothing about identifying risks, which tool and technique would you choose first?
Expert judgment.
Definitely.
From the talk before, people have been traumatized, like expert judgment. Well, let's say that you use the expert judgment a bit later after you have already identified some risks. Now, if you go over that, there is something that is extremely new in this new version of the PMBOK that wasn't there before.
Artificial intelligence.
Yes. So I nowadays we really need to use this tool in our favor, right? So if you know absolutely nothing, just start from somewhere. Okay. So I decided to try it out and to see what AI would tell me. So I told AI, THOR will be a neutral instrument designed and manufactured at the Forschungszentrum Jülich to be installed and operated in the European Spallation Source. The construction of the instrument will be managed as a project. It will include all phases of a systems development lifecycle. You remember this V diagram? I will show it again. The project has a budget of 4.5 million euros. Again, this is imaginary. Okay, these costs are imaginary. The timeline is imaginary. It's an imaginary instrument. Timeline of 4.5 years. Please identify all the risks. Please, I always say please. Do you also say please to Alexa and things like that?
Yeah, cool.
I always say please. I didn't write it here, but it comes automatically, right? I think please identify all the risks, which should be included in the risk register. But the very first point that I always do with AI is optimize this prompt for better AI results. So first I will write optimize this prompt, then I will put this prompt that I wrote here, and then AI was super clever and gave me like 3 slides after as a prompt. I will go a little bit into that. So the very first thing is it tells me, AI tells me what I am. This is amazing, right? Like, you are a senior project risk manager with expertise in large-scale scientific infrastructure projects, systems engineering, new instrumentation, and ESS instrument development. Right? I honestly, I'm having so much fun with AI lately. But anyway, then it says something about the project context. It also puts here all the life cycle phases. And then this is only the prompt, by the way. Okay. Then it identifies the breakdown of the risks into technical, project, procurement, manufacturing, ESS specific risks, safety, organizational, external, operation, and commission. Good. So, and the very last thing that AI gives me is the output. So, the output should be create a risk register, blah, 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 etc., etc., etc. And then I told AI, okay, please do this task. Please do this prompt. Anyway, the text was much larger. I will not go into all this at the moment, but it gives a risk breakdown structure. It gives the top 20 critical risks, a comprehensive risk register, and a risk governance recommendation. Again, this is just a starting point, okay? AI is good, but not good enough. So you just have to know, start from somewhere. And then here I just put the 20 critical risks. It gives a risk ID, the risk itself. The P is the probability, the I is the impact, and gives the risk score. The risk score is the multiplication of the probability and impact. So I will go a little bit more into this point right now, which is the risk analysis. These are the ITTOs for the risk analysis. And we will focus here what I just told you, which is the risk probability and impact, and the probability and impact matrix. Okay, so Basically, this could be just some numbers, right? You can say, okay, probability and impact, you can rate from 1 to 5, you can rate from 1 to 5, and so on and so on. But this absolutely need to be adjusted to each project, right? So if you have a project that takes 7 months and you will have the delay of 1 or 2 weeks, the impact is a bit higher than if you have a project that takes 5 years and you have a delay of 1 or 2 weeks. So you need to guide the people who will be doing or will be registering risks with you. So what you do in this case, for example, you say, okay, if the impact on costs is lower than 25,000 euros, you say it's 1. If the probability on cost is larger than 1 million, you say it's 5. So you see, that's why this always needs to be adapted to the project that you're managing. And then what do you have? You have the impact can be on costs, the impact can be on schedule, the impact can be on quality, the impact can also be on reputation. And then you have here the probability, so unlikely and very likely. Good. So then you have to plan your risk responses. In terms of risk responses, we can focus here on the strategies for threats, opportunities, contingent, and overall project risks. And what I would really advise you is to have as many templates as you possibly can when you finish your planning, so that you can really just execute the project with the basis of having many templates. So I would also advise you to already have a change request template here as an object. And this is then actually quite simple. We can go into the details of this another time. But basically what you want to do is plan the risk responses in terms of you identify the risk, you know where it's coming from, you identify the probability, the impact, so you have a risk score, and how do you want to act on that? Do you want to avoid this risk? Do you want to exploit it? Do you want to transfer? Do you want to mitigate, or do you want to accept? And these points are also everything in the risk register. As you know, I really like to have everything in the same place. There are some people who have a bunch of different documents, but I like to put everything together in the risk register. Okay, so the risk register, then in the end, it will have all those points that we talked about. The reference number, the title, the description, owner, always one owner. One person is responsible to deal with that risk. Or one person entered the risk and another person will act on it. I think there is also something about who is supposed, yes, action owner here, action due date, and so on and so on. Now, there are several ways that you can have a risk register. The most common is in an Excel table, and then you can just program all these calculations that will give you the risk score, and it will tell you if the impact is on cost or schedule and so on. There is a program that now is being used at ESS that it's called Safran, and Sandy will join us in one of our discussion times when she has time, and she will also show you the software, how she's using that. And since I didn't have much time to do a dummy risk register, I will not show you the risk register here right now. I will show you during the discussion parts. And then please don't take photos or don't film it because it's our kind of real risk register. Okay, good. So now let's talk a little bit about how do you plan the management of your project. So we go now to all this plan scope, schedule, and so on, management, and plan stakeholder engagement and plan communication management. So we already, last time we talked about scope, schedule, finance, and resources. And today we took a look into risks. There is one knowledge area that we still didn't talk about, which was So last time we talked about scope, schedule, finance, resources. Today we talked about risks, stakeholders. So this is the first knowledge area that we'll take a look into that now. Okay. So I always call, whenever I'm planning stakeholder engagement, I always put it together with communications management because you cannot do one without the other, right? ITTOs for stakeholder engagement. It's all there. If you want, you can look at the slides later. The focus here will be on the stakeholder engagement access matrix, which we have already seen before. So as input, you remember that we have here from the project initiation talk, we have these outcomes, which is the project charter, the assumption log, and we already have a stakeholder register. And we had said already that in this stakeholder register, it can be very simple, but as I told you, I like to put everything in the same document. We have here already the current involvement and the desirable involvement. And from what we have here, what we have done at Smartsheet, you already can see some other stakeholders, right, that you didn't put in the first stakeholder when you did during the project initiation, which is the project team. So let's plan communication management together. So we'll do both together. These are the ITTOs for communication management. What I find very interesting here, and I really enjoy very much, is actually this communication styles assessment, political awareness, and cultural awareness. I mean, you will have to adapt your communication to pretty much each group of people and each person, each individual. Let's remember a little bit who are the stakeholders for ESS. So let's not go over this again. I will just show you directly. When we discuss about the ESS stakeholders, we came to this conclusion that we have scientific users, in-kind partners, industrial commercial suppliers, ESS internal workforce, EU and international organizations, local communities, host countries, governance bodies, and member countries. From all these stakeholders, if you would think about our instrument THOR, which stakeholders do you think should be included when we talk about one single instrument that will be constructed at the Forschungszentrum and will be delivered to ESS?
ESS internal.
ESS internal workforce, I would say, it will be constructed here, right? The Forschungszentrum. So basically, you can put ESS almost in the place of a customer.
Okay. I would say industrial commercial suppliers.
Yes. This one, and then we can change this to Forschungszentrum. We can put ESS as a customer. What else?
Scientific users.
Scientific users. Yeah.
Current partners? Because it will be a kind of contribution to ESS.
I didn't say that. I was like this. Let's say that we are not constructing this instrument as an in-kind, just, to simplify things. And let's say that we are not doing this with any other partner. We are just doing this Forschungszentrum ourselves. So in this case, not in-kind partners exactly.
The governance bodies.
Governance bodies, yes. So that is pretty much it, right? Let me see. So we have 4 stakeholders, governance bodies, scientific users, ESS as customer, suppliers, and us, the team here. It's more or less what we would have for 4. Okay, and then we also looked into the power interest grid last time. So these stakeholders, who would you put where?
Governance bodies to orange.
Very good. Governance bodies to orange. Okay. low interest, high power.
ESS,
ESS, where?
low interest, low power.
Low interest, low power, but clear that. Good.
So I would say scientific users, high interest, low power.
Yes,
And industry and commercial suppliers, high interest and high power.
yeah. Let's take a look.
ESS is the wrong field.
In real life, yeah.
So let's say that it should be sometimes also in the middle, right? But it's okay. Let's say that you end up with something like this. Where do you put your team, your project team, or the other people inside the function?
Well, into the red field.
The red field.
High power.
High power? No?
High interest, low power.
Yeah, interesting.
I would say low
If they try
interest
to
and high
work, they
power.
have quite, yeah, I know.
If they deny to work, they have a lot of power, yes.
Yeah.
In
That's
between.
like,
In between.
How would differentiate them person to person?
Not even that, yes, but row to row, yes. But actually, what I prefer to do with the team is actually to just keep closer to my heart,
okay.
So they are extremely important stakeholders because the project will not be done without them, right? But are they really like super interested in it? Maybe if they really love their job, yes, but still you have to motivate them a little bit sometimes, right? Not every project is super smooth. And yeah, if they refuse to work, or if you don't have the correct team, the correct place and so on, it's also a power thing. But I wouldn't classify them in this power and interest grade. I would just say, okay, these are the people that should be closer to your heart if you're managing the project. Okay, so if I would look into an organogram, so for me to actually really take a look into stakeholders, it's really good to see how the project would look like in terms of having an organogram. Do you guys know about this organogram, which is the usual for a project? No. Okay, so basically you have here the project manager, you have some team managers and team members, and then you have project assurance, project support, change authority, and you have the project board, which is composed by an executive power, the senior supplier, and the senior user. You usually should have independent advisors. And then you have this corporate or program management. Of course, I will tell you the story about when I arrived here and I tried to implement that and how things actually work in reality. But this gives you an idea on the people that you should look for when building up a project. So here from our THOR instrument, we already know some of our people, right? The scientist, the engineer, and so on, so on, so on. And now this question goes for the people who do know about building an instrument. These people that we put on Smartsheet, because we did a kind of high-level product breakdown structure, work breakdown structure at Smartsheet, and we had all these people. Are they everyone that you need to construct an instrument?
Technicians.
There are no technicians. What else? Here we're pretty much missing all the specialists, actually. So you need much more. So that's why I said this is an imaginary instrument, right? You need much more. You need specialists on electrical, on e-planning, on PNID, electronics calculation, motion control and automation, IT, and et cetera. So you really, really need to keep in mind every single work that needs to be done. I forgot also to add here vacuum specialists, etc. You know, so cabinets and so on and so on.
Electrical.
Electrical, yeah. So anyway, you need to have, in order for you to know all the specialists that you need to have, all the work that really needs to be done, what do you need?
External
Judgment.
Expert judgment. And these are the people that you keep close to your heart. Okay, so we have some stakeholders here, but you also have, so for example, I put this diagram here that we use for the ESS program management at Forschungszentrum. You also have many other people that you need from the administrative side. You will need to negotiate contracts, you will need to do logistics, procurements, and so on, so on. So you also need to take a look into the a bit more faraway interfaces than your project team, but you will need all of them on board when you are doing your project. Good. So another thing that helps a lot to why are you laughing?
Because Andreas likes it.
Andreas likes it. What?
I did.
Okay, good. So something that helps a lot to manage your project is to do a RACI chart. Does anybody know what that is? No? Yes?
Responsible, accountable, to be consulted or informed.
Very good.
Always.
Wow.
Wow.
Responsible, accountable, consultant, and informed. So imagine that you have here a certain task, and then you will say, okay, there's the scientist, engineer, blah, 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 blah. You will write names on that. You will write names on that. It's not only the scientists or the, when you will execute, when you already have your project team and so on. And then you will just put RCA. So this again, it's just, I just threw some letters randomly, but you will always put this. And after you do this, and you have your whole team and you have your whole everyone, you will collect signatures of everyone saying, I know I am responsible for doing that. I know I'm accountable. I know I need to be informed, and so on, so on, so on. Okay, so now you are absolutely sure of all the people that you have to add to your stakeholder register, right? So the stakeholder engagement plan is a component of the program or project management plan that identifies the strategies and actions required to promote productive involvement of stakeholder in project decision-making and execution. The plan can be formal or informal, and highly detailed or broadly framed, based on the needs of the project and the expectations of the stakeholders. The stakeholder engagement plan may include, but it is not limited to, specific strategies or approaches for engaging with individuals or groups of stakeholders. Okay, so in the end of all this, you will write a plan of the stakeholders, which groups you want to group them sometimes, right? That you will communicate with all at the same time. We will go into communication now. But basically, this whole talk today is about writing this document. This how you will manage how you plan to manage your project. So
Before we go on,
yeah.
can you explain how you separate accountability and responsibility?
So let's say I think accountability, you can say yes, I will approve that. And responsibility is like, I will do that. I think could be, yeah.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Assuming it means the responsible person does the task and the accountable.
Wait, sorry.
So if the responsible person does the task and the accountable person is in charge of making sure the task is done. If the task is not done,
Mhm.
who is more liable?
Who will be held accountable afterwards? That's actually
Ah,
so. If you're responsible, the task is not done.
okay.
You will be held accountable afterwards. Should be, will be theoretically.
We could change the RACI terms for responsible, approver,
Okay, yeah, okay.
consulted, informed. So the person who is responsible for performing that task is kind of accountable for actually doing that task, right?
Okay, yeah.
But then you have a person who will approve that. So imagine that you're writing a document and you have the authors, the reviewers, and the approvers.
So it's more oversight. Accountable is more oversight instead of
Yes,
being accountable.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I would interpret like that, yeah.
There's another question.
Uh-huh.
How to make sure that all the potential stakeholders are covered? What if someone is missed?
Then what do you do?
External judgment.
Now let's say it again. 1, 2, 3.
Expert judgment.
Expert judgment. Yeah, so of course you will not know if you're missing someone if you didn't talk to absolutely everyone who should give input, that you're not missing someone.
But then we are, for example, we are informing the management or the top management or the director, the board or director, okay? And then we are doing something and we are consulting somebody to say, is this okay? Is this not okay? This person is saying, no, this is not okay. Then we go rewriting or redefining, and then we go for the people who are going to approve. So consulting and approving is kind of a redundancy because the consulted is actually going to external expert judgment and asking, is this right? Is this wrong? Do I miss something or something? And then he gonna say to you, or he gonna kind of approve you that is that okay? And then you go for the other person who actually is another.
So imagine that you're at SIG and you put an independent consultant there. You put my name as independent consultant for project management. Mm-hmm. And then you will tell your boss that, okay, you have this person in the role of being consulted for this and this tasks. You will consult me. I do not have the power to prove that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it can be same roles, of course. You can have someone that you will consult, and this person is also the person who will approve in the end. But it can also be different roles.
Yep.
Good. More questions? All good. Okay. So we will go now into communications management plan. So basically, I already showed the ITTOs for communication management plan, right? I think so. So basically, in the plan, you will say, okay, who needs to receive information, how the information will be received, will be delivered, what information needs to be communicated, when and how often the communication should occur. I would actually advise to go up much more into details on this point because this is one of the most important points in any project. This is the point that you will always have a barrier. It's always communication. You will always forget someone. So the more you plan, the more you make your list, the more you consult people to make sure that you're starting with the right foot, the more you will have less issues with communication and during your project. So I would also include some of the needs, requirements, and expectations of people and groups. persons and groups. And who will be responsible to communicate with whom. So for example, with the scientific community, you will say that you will communicate with them during conferences. And the person who is supposed to present this is the scientist. Responsible for authorizing if there is information that is confidential. You definitely need to include this in your plan. The reason for distribution, the information to be communicated, and also the format and the level of detail and so on. Methods or technologies, I will come back to that. Escalation processes, time frame and frequency. So how often you will communicate what to whom. Resources, if you actually have a huge project and you actually have people who are doing only communication, so you will account for that also. You should have a glossary because sometimes we use a lot of abbreviations. You should have guidelines and templates, and I will talk a little bit about these constraints. So sometimes we don't know, but in our companies, and this is why I always say, okay, get those documents that are available, get the enterprise documents and so on to make sure that you're not doing anything wrong. Because, for example, we are in a huge center here, and there might be limitations on who should talk to whom, in particular, if you're talking to politicians and things like that. So there might be some constraints sometimes. I just want to talk a little bit about the methods or technologies. So you should decide, okay, the formal communication of the project will be done via email, or you will have a website like Confluence that you will put all your project data there. You will use Teams, you will use Slack, you know, it's really good to decide right in the beginning, this form of communication will be done via here, the other form will be done there, and how often, right? And then you will have the project boards meetings. They will meet X amount of times per year. This kind of information needs to reach them by this format, by a report, by a dashboard, by a one-pager. So high level really likes one-pager. And it should really, really include everything possible there. Okay. Any questions about communication or something? If not, we can already.
Is the project management typically the source of the communication, or are there other people responsible to communicate in whatever direction?
It depends which project. Let's say Thor, right? So Thor, I'm building an instrument. Let's say that I am the project manager for this instrument, right? I would have the responsibility to communicate with the entire team. I would have this responsibility to report to upper management. Upper management would maybe then have the responsibility to report to board of directors. And then I would say, no, but I'm not the scientist, I'm just project manager. So the scientists will communicate in conferences. The engineers will communicate in engineering conferences. So the responsibility is basically everywhere. The point is to whom, how often, how. Good. Yeah.
But in this case, if board of directors or higher management have any point of input or anything that goes down in the same order, what does that do?
It should. Technically. Hopefully, like this, if everything is established and all the ways actually, how can I say this, are working, it technically should be like that. Of course, in reality, it's helpful when you have some back channels and you can do things a bit faster.
Yeah, I would say here the responsible for communication, that should be something what you agree before. Because sometimes you just put some people in CC and you don't put the person in the top of the mail, and those persons feel not responsible about the information of that. And different than I didn't share the information is that you didn't read the information, right? So this is something what we need to align before, and the people need to feel the responsibility in the project that the information is there and you can consult, or you can just decide don't do nothing with the information. And that is really related to the matrix or something, what you defined before.
I just want to go back to one point here that I really like. Let me just go back to here. You're completely right. And I tell you, like, communication is always the issue in any project. And what I like very much is this communication styles, political awareness, and cultural awareness, because you need to, that there was one person, for example, who was American, and this person wrote an email to the German ministry that causes months and months and months of discussion just because of few words. That if he writes this from an American perspective, from where he is, and he just say, "Oh, the devil is in the details, but everything is solved." From the German perspective, is like everything is solved. There are just some details to solve. Well, what he actually wanted to say is like the devil is in the details. It means like it's hell on earth. And for us to then correct this, it was months and months and months trying to say, no, everything is not solved. But this guy said, no, what he meant, was something else. So paying a lot of attention to this is extremely important. But also, the more you network, the more you work with your team and so on, you will also learn if they read emails or not, if they are in CC and so on. And then you will learn that you have to go another way. You have to say, knock on the door and say, hey, hello, remember this email? Did you read? Do you know? And so on. Can you reply that you read? Things like that. So, for example, there are people on my team that I have to be extremely direct. There are people that I have to be very precise. There are people that if I write 2 topics in one email, the person will reply only the first topic.
Typical.
So, then the more I get to know this kind of people, the more I can improve, not this kind of people, the more I get to know everyone, the more I can improve my communication style. And I can improve my political awareness. My political awareness for me was in Germany. I mean, in Brazil, I talk to anyone, first name. Everything is great. I don't care if you are cleaning the corridor, if you are the CEO, I will talk the same way to everyone. And, yay, what's up? How's it going? And this is also the same actually at ESS. ESS is also like that, but in Germany, I'm like this. My boss already took me out of lots of difficult situations.
And I would go a little bit deeper because for sure it's the political and something, and it's also the culture, because sometimes we have here this feeling, not only in Germany, I would say that is in general, but happens also a lot here, and in other countries too. But you don't, it's part of the culture, don't feel responsible for something, but it is your job. So sometimes people just say, well, I'm not doing that because somebody else is doing, because you are not doing. And then the person just say, but this is not my job, but it is. So then you need to go talk first, and then you write the mail saying, as we spoke. So it doesn't matter if the guy answered or read it, whatever, you already wrote as we spoke. And this is something what for me is really not nice to write, because you should not confirm by writing what you already spoke, but that's something that protect yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I should definitely do that. I also had lots of issues with that.
But I guess this protects us a little bit about political or cultural situations, right?
No, you have to have everything written.
Yep.
I even after 10 years on the job, even this year, something like this happened to me. That someone had, oh no, but you said this. I was like, no. And we had regular meetings every week and so on and so on. Did we write meeting minutes? No, because it's a regular meeting. It's fine. It's just to align things and so on. But we agreed on something. Did I write it that we agreed? No.
Yeah.
Did the person remember that we agreed? No. So guess what? After
I guess this is not by Germany, this is in general.
it's general, it's general.
Everyone.
So I really prefer, even sometimes after a phone call, I really prefer to just put as a slot. So another thing that, okay, I will just mention this here. That I enjoy very much is when I think about project management, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a question.
Okay.
The political and cultural awareness is not trivial and mostly instinct. Should the project manager train herself by reading or asking questions, or are there any other official way?
So I would say training is really good.
Yeah.
If you have nice trainings that are being offered, I would definitely advise to do. Many years ago, we had some issues with a person that was from, that's fine, that was from Australia. And I actually went and researched about the culture of the place and why we were having these issues and so on. But training is definitely always good. Yeah, so one thing that I probably will mention more during monitoring and executing and so on is I compare a lot our work to this series about police in the US and so on, that they go and do their work, but when they come back, they always have to do a report, right? About every single thing that they did. And we don't do this, and we should do this. We should do a daily log, a issues log, a lessons log, and so on, so on, so on. But the point is that you're so overloaded with work doing everything else that for you to keep track and come back and write reports about what you did that day, you know, it's sometimes difficult. So that's why I always now go through emails and as we discussed, blah, 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 blah. I do this a lot now, just to make sure to avoid this kind of issues in the future. Good. Anything else about stakeholders and communication?
It's a really open field.
It's an extremely open field. Yes, that is true. Okay, so we will go now to plan scope management. I think in our case, this will be actually quite easy. So here are the ITTOs again for you to read when you have time. What I wanted to say is that we put instrument 4 into Smartsheet and we did the product breakdown structure based on this systems development lifecycle, right? You remember that we saw this before. And when you're doing the plan on how you will manage your scope, you can pretty much just describe this, that you will follow this systems development life cycle, that you will have a stage gate approach, because in each of these milestones here, each of these reviews, you will have the approval to go back to the next stage. And if you want to go not back, to go to the next stage. But if you want to go back, you cannot unless you have a change request. So in the scope management plan, you basically describe how you will manage the scope. And what I would include here, and I didn't finish reading the book because I bought the 8th edition this time, the PMBOK. I would add also something about change process and about quality management. Of course, here, when you do a system validation plan, system verification, second again, there we go. Oh, that's a very small laser. There we go, okay. When you do the system verification plan, subsystem verification plan, and test plan, these are all documents on how you will verify how you will do actually quality assurance. But still, I would add here how you will do quality management, which directives you will use, which software you will use if you will do, say, certification for your components, etc., etc. So I would do a very good plan here. Any questions about this management? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a plan for scope creep? Or how do you prevent it? Do you want to prevent it? Or just comment on scope creep?
That's an interesting question. So you should definitely plan for what to do if, right?
Yeah.
What if things go wrong?
No, not wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody sees something that they like. I mean, compared to impulse shopping, you see something that you like, and somebody realizes. Worst case, somebody in THOR realizes that they absolutely want something.
So this is what I said, that I would always plan. So you can still do some iterations here internally, right? So when you're doing the concept of operation, you can work agile here. We talked a lot about this framework of agile and waterfall and so on. Inside this one box, you can go agile and you can do some changes. The point is, of course, you always have to check again with the budget, with the timeline, and so on and so on. But as soon as you pass this milestone here, this review, and you start already with the system requirements, whatever you change that would change this part needs to go through a change request. Always needs to go through a change board, needs to be approved. I know that we didn't do this.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
No, we didn't. And in the end, I was really freaking out a little bit when engineers would go, oh, but ESS has to change this, that, and that. And I'm like, why did you do it? You know, like these are changes that request a lot of work. So it took a very long time to convince our people here to not make changes without discussing first. I think Coding had a question. Coding?
Yes, hello, just a quick question. Do you mind defining the word validation and in contrast to the word verification? Because different industries have different opinions on what these words mean.
So if I'm talking about a Neutron instrument, right, you will say that verification, something was constructed to spec, and validation is it's doing what was supposed to be done. So, for example, the concept of operation of a neutron instrument, you will only really validate when you actually have neutrons, and you can see that it's operating as it is delivering the science that was supposed to deliver. So this is validation. But if you build the entire instrument, so let's say a car, okay, you build a car that has doors, has a motor, has everything and so on, and you verify that all this is working. But does the car actually drive? Does the car actually drive to the velocity that was supposed to drive? And so on, so on. And this is more the validation.
So as hint, I would look in the ISO 9000, 1000, not minus 1001. These terms are well defined.
Okay.
I think this is a reference always used in all norms.
Okay.
So
okay, so we have to look into the ISO 9000. So I think another handbook that is very useful also, here's the, well, maybe not very useful, but because it's very long, but there is also the NASA engineering handbook, right? That has followed more or less the same approach here. Of course, they have a bit more validations here and so on, but it also gives a lot of input into this system development cycle. More questions about scope? Yeah. So, in summary, you will write a document saying how you do that, and you should also probably update your document if anything changes throughout the project. Good. Now let's talk about how we plan to manage schedule. Here are the ITTOs of schedule management. Basically, for the schedule management plan, you need to do a project schedule model development, release and iteration links, level of accuracy, units of measure, organization procedure links, project schedule model maintenance, control thresholds. So when would you escalate something in terms of delay and so on? Rules of performance and reporting formats. I just want to focus a little bit here now on the rules of performance measurement. Instead of just throwing a bunch of equations here, they are very, very simple equations, but still, instead of just showing the equations, I just want to show a very, very simple example. So if you have a project that you will do 400 cookies in 4 weeks for 400 euros, you plan to do, let's say, 100 cookies per week, and you will spend 100 euros per week. That's your plan. But then in the end of week 2, you produced only 100 cookies and you spent already 300 euros. So how can you actually measure? You like the cookies?
No, that's my life.
That's your life. Okay, good. So let's calculate first the earned value. So the earned value is percentage of completed work multiplied by the budget at completion. So your earned value at the moment is 100 euros. Okay, and now with this earned value, you can then calculate a cost variance. Cost variance is the earned value minus the actual costs. So you spent 300 euros, so you are in minus 200 euros at the moment. And then you can also calculate the schedule variance, which is the earned value minus the planned value. And the schedule variance then is minus 100 euros. You see, we are talking about schedule, but we're talking about money, right? This is maybe interesting. The other parameters that you can also use is the cost performance index, which is the earned value divided by the actual costs. In this case is 0.3. And the schedule performance index, which is the earned value divided by the planned value, which is in this case 0.5. So about these parameters, I have mixed feelings because people use a lot this CPI and SPI, and when they see, oh, you're not number one. So if you're 1, it means that you're on budget and on schedule, right? If you're lower, it means that you are delayed and you are over budget. The point is, what if I didn't really plan this work properly? Right? What if I already bought all the ingredients and then I actually spent the first week buying the ingredients and only afterwards I started with making the cookies? Right? So it is good to measure something against, right? But I have really mixed feelings about it.
I see this. The first thing what I when I see this example, the first thing what I thought was the ABC curve for sources, right? So you buy in the beginning of the project everything what you need. So you make all the negotiations, you guarantee your prices, and of course you spend most of your money in the beginning, and you are sure that you will not have change orders because you're going to say, I already bought everything what we have in our scope. But of course, you have all the material you need storage, right?
Yeah.
That is one situation.
For the storage.
Or maybe you're just spending more really and doing is slowly. So
yeah.
That's really something what you need to, yeah, for sure we have this mixing feeling because we do not see the whole picture here.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we do not see in where did we spend the 300.
Yeah. So this is the point, like if you do a plan that is detailed enough and then you assign the costs to the time when they will actually be spent and so on, you would see this better. What it usually happens in a project is this S-shaped curve that you're first planning, so you're not spending so much, and then you spend, and then you're doing stuff, right? But
So the only doubts about this project description is this bracket 100 euro per week. So this assumption that the cash flow is linear, and that's not realistic.
yeah, exactly. So if you would plan this project like, okay, week one, I will procure. I will go to the supermarket to the procurement. I will procure. I will buy all the ingredients. Week two, I will have a learning curve on how to do the cookies. And week three, I will already be able to do mass manufacturing of the cookies, so to speak. So, yeah, but, and this is the point, like you need to do a very nice planning. But if someone else is just applying these indexes to you and showing, hey, your SPI is bad, you have to check, okay, let me check what is behind that. I said I will invent one, and I'm very close to it. I will invent a new performance index. It will be TPI. It will be Tania's performance index, which will also consider things like risks. Is this task really critical? Is this how many tasks are dependent on that task, and so on, so on, so on. So there is a lot of things to consider here. But still, there are performance measurements. You can put in your plan which performance measurements you would use. What I like to use is, if we go back to THOR, I like to use baselines here. So if you go back to Smartsheet, you can ask to do a baseline. So you first put your whole plan there, and you're sure about these dates, right? You did all your expert judgment. You're in the end of it. You're in the end of the planning, and you say, now I will start. And I will say, okay, I will click on this, and this is my baseline. So when you click on this, you have, okay, set baseline, yes. And then it will add in the end of your worksheet columns with baseline start, baseline finish, and variance. So I very much like this variance. I prefer much more looking into the variance than into the SPIs itself. And I would also add something like, okay, I actually plan to do a rebaselining maybe every year, right? And there are other things that I also like to follow schedule. Just a second. So you have this baseline, you take a look into this variance, then you know, okay, I'm extremely delayed, I'm extremely early, etc., etc. Never happened, but it's usually extremely delayed. But okay. Then you also have this critical path. So you can also put in your plan, I will do a critical path analysis and I will follow that and so on. So you just click on this button here, and it shows you like the last task, and it shows you the critical path all the way back to which task is actually driving that. And then I will see, wait, this is driving the end of my project. Let me put a bit more resources here because I want to finish earlier, or I'm too delayed, and so on, so on. And another point that we also looked in the very first talk was this milestone trend analysis. And this I also like very much. I say, okay, I said, for example, I said that THOR would be done with design in this date, but then in the next date, the date changed, and so on, so on, so on. And then I like to put a box here, and with a sign, okay, in this date occurred COVID, the war. So issues like that, or contracts were not negotiated, and so on, so on. So you do a milestone trend analysis, and you say why this changed in that year. So this is also something that I would add. And now I'm in the end of schedule management. Are there any questions about schedule management? So in your plan, you will say, this is how I will manage the schedule during my project. And then you choose what you want to use. But make sure that you plan for it. This is extremely important. You should also say who will be responsible to updating the schedule, how often, to whom this will be reported, how often, when this someone should escalate, right? So if you're delayed more than, say, 6 months, this needs to be escalated immediately, and so on, so on. Questions to this point? If not, we can go to plan financial management. And now I will go a bit more a bit less into details because now you have an idea on what should be on a document that you're doing the planning. So your project management plan document. The ITTOs for financial management. In summary, what you want to do is the same thing, right? For financial management, you want to have some units of measures, your level of precision, accuracy, and so on. I found it very interesting because this level of precision, because me and Andreas, we are always talking, okay, it's 1 million, it's this, it's that. And then Ulrike goes and no, it's 995. And she always says the comma and the cents after. That's why she's the controller, you know. So, but you can also specify which precision you want to do there. You should put some organizational procedures, control thresholds also. So if the project is over budget by this much, it will escalate this all the way to blah, blah, blah. How you want to report this is extremely important. And I will show you some examples during the lessons learned that I will show soon. And one thing that I like very much to follow is this estimated costs against the actual costs and the estimate at completion. So basically, estimate at completion is how money your project will cost at the end, which means that you have your estimated costs and then your project started running. Right, and then suddenly there is a procurement that is 100,000 more than planned. You go there and you update your estimated completion. So at completion, the project will be 100,000 more, and then something else happens. So whenever something gets concrete, like a procurement or how long you're working on this project, and so on, so on, so on, you update this. And I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing that we did this here. But life like this, very, very early in our projects, we knew when we were going to be over budget because we were always following this estimated completion. So we could escalate this much earlier than we were actually already out of money. And then the estimate to completion is how much money you need to finish the project. They are similar, but depends on the information that you want to pass. What I would also add here that I didn't find so much is how you intend to do procurement management and how you intend to do supplier management. Good. So now you can plan resources management. The ITTOs are here. Basically, what you have is identification of resources, and you know this, you have the organizational charts also as input. One thing that we saw also in the first talk was if you are having this matrix structure, right? So how do you really intend to manage these people? Although they have another inline managers and so on, you have to make sure that everyone is on the same page, everyone is informed about it. And this person, for example, knows that you will be managing this person during this period of time. You should definitely include that. Another thing that I would include here is conflict management and non-HR resource management. For example, if you need places to construct the parts of the instruments and so on, the workshop, you will need to do some management of resources that are not people. I just want to emphasize here now on roles and responsibilities. So, if you lose everything, yeah, there is some laugh here on the program management office because I say this a lot to my boss. Roles and responsibilities, roles and responsibilities. If you lose everything in project management, everything, the one thing that you should have are roles and responsibilities. Everything else is okay. Not is okay, but this is one of the most important things. So basically, if you have, because today is the World Cup, so I got inspired by an example, right? If every single player in the team knows what they are supposed to do, where they are supposed to be, everything works.
Most teams have a player too much.
Just ask ChatGPT.
Most teams have 11 players plus the goalkeeper.
Okay. I will tell ChatGPT about this after, that it's doing the wrong numbers of players. So let's suppose that you're in this imaginary world where you have one more player. Are you counting?
There's too many people in the field, yeah.
No, but there are some judges here and stuff.
Yeah. That's okay. Go to the point.
Anyway, as I told you, I just asked ChatGPT to make an image, and I just put it there. I didn't count, Ulrich. I really didn't count. I'm sorry. So if the team knows what they are supposed to do, when they are supposed to do what, where they are supposed to be, they are the probability that they win is absolutely much higher than if you just have a bunch of random people running around. Then you have no goalkeeper, or the goalkeeper is in the middle here, and some people complaining here. What the hell are you doing there?
At least they have the right number.
They have the right number.
Even more players on the field.
Oh, really?
See, the more chaotic it is, the more players you have in the field, because the people who were supposed to be sitting in the benches suddenly are there. You see? Yeah. Anyway, I just want to emphasize that roles and responsibilities, and people knowing what they are supposed to do, when they are supposed to do what, is one of the most important things in project management. Roles and responsibilities, Andreas.
And usually is what miss.
Yes, it's one of the things that people are running around like headless chickens sometimes, right? Does it exist the same in English? Yes. Okay, yes. The American told me that it exists, so it's okay. Good. Okay, so I think we are almost done with planning. Let's see. So we will also plan risk management. We just saw risk today. Here are the ITTOs for the planning risk management. Basically, you should have a strategy, a methodology, roles and responsibilities, the funding that you will include on that, timing, risk categories. You should know what is the risk appetite of the stakeholders. There are people who are extremely risk appetite, some are not. Definitions of probability and impacts, we already talked about this, and tools. So what will you use? You will use the Excel, you use Safran, who will update which risk register, because if you will have lots of projects or lots of sub-projects, each sub-project will have one risk register that will then be all compiled in a master risk register that summarizes all the risks. So basically, you have to include all that in your plan. And now we are pretty much done with this part here, all this planning. As I already mentioned before, I would include how you plan to do change, to manage change, to manage procurement, supplier conflict, non-HR documentation, also which documentation will be uploaded where, contract management, logistics, and so on. And now that we did all these parts, we can finally go to governance. And I will be very brief here. So I will start also with plan sourcing strategy. And source plan sourcing strategy, the focus that I would give here is the make or buy analysis. You should always make this decision. And the ITTOs for integrate and align project plans are here. So basically, you will get all those plans that you did for each of those knowledge areas, you put them all together. And you have to go a bit back and forth, right? So if suddenly you discover that there is a very high risk of something happening with a component, you can go back to your schedule and say, okay, I will manage this more closely, or I will assign more resources here and there. Okay? And with that, we are, oh, okay, wait. And what do you do after you finish your planning?
Always expert judgment.
Expert judgment, exactly. So get this document, circulate around, and ask for input. Okay, so now that we are actually, we'll say, done with planning, with writing, how we will manage things, I want to show a little bit of the lessons learned of establishing a program management office, which is embedded at JCNS-ESS. We looked into the T-REX timeline last time, and I just want to show you this to give you an idea that I started working here in 2016, so in this part here. And the projects were already ongoing for some time. So the proposal was submitted to SAC in 2014, 2015, and there was already a decision of building T-REX. So these projects, all the instruments projects were already, had already started when I started working here. So what did I do? I looked into this beautiful, beautiful structure of JCNS. And I told my wonderful boss, I was like, how about we do a program management office, which is embedded into your department? To which he said, to which he said, great. Right?
It's like,
Most likely. Okay, so first of all, we looked into all the projects and personnel, and because they were already there, right? So these projects were already ongoing. What I'm writing is not a project management plan. I'm writing a project management or program management, how we are managing things, right? So there are all the projects, there were all the people. And then we took a look into the internal and external interfaces. We did a stakeholder analysis. We have then developed the organogram. So again, roles and responsibilities, right? This is something that took a very long time. I will go into the organogram soon. And then we have established all the regular meetings as needed. So jour fixes, directorial meetings, partner meetings with the other institute, infrastructure meetings with all the corporate functions of the Forschungszentrum, and so on, so on, so on. So just to let you know, you remember this organogram that I showed before. I based myself on that organogram where you have the executive, you have the project manager, and so on, so on, so on, in order to try to place the people who were working on the project by then. We had an instrument scientist who was the leader for the instrument. I will focus only on the instruments here now. And we put them in this box called project manager. We had also a senior instrument scientist who we put in this box of project assurance. And then we had a lead engineer at this institute, JCNS, and another engineer in another institute at the ITE. And as you can see, there is like this dotted line here. And as you can see, the project manager is here. There is no inline management to all of them. But the senior programmer, so again, this is a lot of adapting to the environment, right? It's one of these principles you have to adapt to the environment. So we formed this program management office here. And if I go back there, just 1 second, that you see us, for example, this is Andres, my boss. I am directly under him in this department, but the controller and the quality managers are coming from other departments. So this is an extremely matrix structure. And then the first title that I put here for project engineer, it was team manager, because I based myself on that organogram that I showed you before. And then when I showed this to people, they were like, what is that? I don't want to be a team manager. So, I said, okay, so which name do you like for your box? I'm an engineer. I said, okay, project engineer. I said, good. People were happy. But if I would have written there, team manager, they were not happy. Okay, so you adapt, right? And then when we did this organogram, we went to each boxes in the document and we wrote what? About each box? The name. The R and R?
Roles and
The roles and responsibilities. So for each box, we wrote the roles and responsibilities and we passed to each people. Are you okay with this? Do you agree to that? Now, only because you wrote and they read, it doesn't mean that they will do it, right? So sometimes, you just have to keep reminding them. So you remember you're responsible for this. You remember this document that you read and you sign, that you will do this. You have to keep reminding them. Good. Then what did we do? We went to the phase 2, which we did a division of the projects into major sub-projects, as you can see here. And also subcomponents and phases also. So phase 1, phase 2, and so on, which is like the design, the manufacturing, the installation, etc., etc. Now this took an extreme amount of time. We developed a financial controlling system, which is updated every month by UDIC. This is a set of several files, Excel files, that she goes to SAP and she extracts exactly the numbers that we want to have there. And then the project managers or the instrument scientists, they receive this every month and they know how much it was spent, for what it was spent, what is that against the costs, the budget that we had, and how is the new estimated completion. The estimated completion, we update a bit less regularly, but whenever there is a procurement that is closed, okay, now we know the value of that, we update this. So I think we are very proud of this. So at least I'm very proud of this because it helps a lot to manage the project. Okay, and then we also, since it was very long ago, actually, we did the schedule and cost for each project on MS Project. And this was, each file was an input for the program master file. And then we also generated from that regular reports for schedule, logistics, and procurement. We also had to develop some processes for reporting, procurement, logistics, quality management, change management, and documentation management. This process here is, for example, for procurement. And finally, we developed the risk register. Good. And with that, we could summarize all this information into what we call the program management document, which is beautiful and needs to be updated, obviously. How many people read this in the entire Forschungszentrum? I don't know. But it's there. You read this, yes. 4 people. The 4 people who wrote. Yeah, so then when we finished this, we presented to the directorium. The directorium approved it, and then we made it available to other people in the Forschungszentrum as requested. The other thing that we had to do afterwards, so we went from MS Project to Smartsheet. We then created some very nice dashboards in Smartsheet. I like it very much. And basically, what we need to update this document is that what we are dealing with more at the moment, we have also, I want to add contract negotiations, supplier management. So we had to visit suppliers to deal with some issues and so on. But pretty much this is everything that the program management office is dealing with. And in summary, what I like to tell the instrument scientists and the engineers and so on is that we are there to do all this headache so that they can focus on the actual work, so to speak, right? Any questions about this? Good.
Who is working on this dashboard? Is only the program management working on this dashboard and offers this to everybody, or do other people have to contribute?
So the project managers / instrument scientists, they update the schedule together with the engineers, and the dashboards we did, they are all updated automatically. So in Smartsheet, you have the project file. Then you have a bunch of reports that we did for all the instruments. They are financial reports, resource reports, and so on and so on. And all these reports, then we automated a dashboard. So whenever they update the project file, everything is automatically updated. But we did this, we developed that. It's extremely useful. Good. We are almost to the end. Just before we finish, I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of communication so that I can also leave a homework for you. Does anybody know this figure of the project construction cycle of the free swing? Yes, right. So basically, this is how the client described it, how the architect envisioned it, how the engineer designed it. I don't like it so much because I love my engineers. Okay, I don't think they would do something like that, but you know, it's just a funny story. What the budget allowed. How the liability insurance agents described it. How the estimator bid it. How the manufacturer made it. What the building inspector expected. I like very much this one and the liability insurance. It's really how they see sometimes the project. What the contractor installed it. What the customer really wanted. And I really like this very much because you really need to extract this information from the customer so that they are describing this, but this is what they actually want, right? How the project was documented. Story of my life. And how the customer was billed. So I will not go so much into communication right now because we are already past the time limit, but I will go a lot into this when I'm talking about the roles of project managers. What I want to leave you with is this book. It's called Nonviolent Communication. And this helps a lot to improve communication in the team and, well, with all the stakeholders. And with that, I just wanted to let you know that I'm really apologizing for last time. I had terrible allergies, and I think I'm still a bit bringing that from all I'm still taking medicine against allergies, so I think I'm still a bit slow. So we are doing this today, and we will skip the June 25th because I have to prepare to let someone from the team go on parental leave, so I have to do all this work now. And we will continue that in July 16th. And again, if you have comments and questions, please always send it to me or do them here online. And Thank you so much for your attention.